Ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday night, and we are here for episode 6 of the Barroom Podcast. We have kept this up for 6 straight weeks. You all should take a round of applause, a victory apple, whatever you want to do. If you're here with us this Friday night, you're doing a much better than former Japanese prime ministers around the world. So go ahead and take a drink to that and celebrate.
Some news site posted up Hideo Kojima's picture, the game developer, acting like saying he was the dude.
This ain't alcohol, YouTube. This is Power Rate, so.
I was like, yo, what the hell? I'd be afraid to be Kojima right now. I wouldn't step foot outside my house.
Yeah, exactly. Dude's just over here watching cartoons and shit. They just reads the news, and all of a sudden he's like the most wanted man in Japan. So yeah, probably not the best of news, but everyone else here is having a much better time with their life. I think we can easily say that one. So let's go around the horn real quick. We have quote Cassie Cage with us once again. How you doing, Cassie?
I'm good. I'm just chilling. I was just on another podcast and I was chilling with some of the gaming homies, and now we're chilling here. I'm all over the place. I'm wanted. It's the first time in my life, man. I want to embrace it. No, I'm playing. I'm just chilling, bro. Same old.
We have the man with the name that nobody can forget, Mr. TW Booty Hunter. Give it to him.
What up? Yep, just got done putting out like 2 banger videos. Top 10 reasons why Patrick Star is awful, whether you want to say he's a bad friend or just an awful person or not. Put that out on YouTube. Check that out. I put out my first wrestling video in like forever, but technically it wasn't like a wrestling video. It was like making fun of people on Twitter. It was like making fun of how stupid wrestling fans are about the Austin Theory shit. So yeah. I guess if you're into wrestling, check that out.
The funny thing about wrestling is that obviously the story today was about Vince McMahon, and I guess the Wall Street Journal put in one of those little details about one of the people who he allegedly slept with, and they were so specific in the details of the story. It made it pretty obvious. It's like, okay, so this was Christy Hemme, right? Because there's
exactly video thing on Instagram. I'm like, oh, okay.
It's like it was so specific to the point where they didn't give away the name, but all the other details, it was like, okay, there's only like one person this could possibly be, and so you got completely threw under the bus. And her name was trending because everyone else started figuring it out too. So it was just a whole clusterfuck.
I mean,
hey, I mean, I guess we know why she fought Trish Stratus at WrestleMania 21 now. So
that's a lot right there.
And then we have the man, Rob Motto, who is back with a much easier Twitter handle for everyone to remember this week. How you doing, Rob?
Pretty good. I changed that just so it's kind of, I basically had to remake a brand new one a year ago. So I just had that, pre-made one. And so I just changed it for something easier to remember. I'm not really looking forward to seeing Thor. I am looking forward to reviewing it on Monday because I hear how bad it is. But I'm here to talk about what's going on.
Well, there's a lot of things going on this week. It's been a very, very busy week. I guess you could say busy last few hours, obviously. So we do have a number of stories that we're going to talk about here tonight. And then there's also a movie review for us here tonight, too. Now, I know one person who has seen this movie, so I'm hoping that the other two have at least seen enough of it to at least say that they hate their own existence. Can I say that the other two people on this panel have seen the Princess tonight?
Mm-hmm. It was playing in the background.
Right. Yeah, we'll get a little deeper into it later on today, but let's go ahead and get the show rolling. With, I guess, the story that kind of just broke right before we came on here a couple hours ago. And it's the story of Elon Musk and Twitter. Now, Elon Musk made the announcement today that he is terminating the deal, that he was going to spend $45 billion to buy Twitter as a platform and finalizing the deal with the shareholders. But over the last couple of weeks, really like the last month or so, he's been talking about that he wanted to see Twitter's user numbers because he believed that their user numbers were overinflated by a number of bots that are on the platform. And for a while, it seemed like Twitter didn't exactly want to give that information away. And Musk was kind of on the fence about the whole deal. Well, he's allegedly backing away from the deal now. It's been reported today. And this was from Variety. He says, Elon Musk has called off the whole thing. Twitter is done. Twitter is not done with him yet. The mega billionaire terminated his $44 billion offer for Twitter, notifying the company of this decision on Friday in a letter from his lawyers regarding the regulatory finding. Musk is primarily claiming that Twitter misrepresented the scope of spam and fake accounts on the social network, saying that its preliminary estimates were widely higher than the sub 5% that they repeatedly claimed. Now, the reason why this is a big deal is because when you're spending that kind of money on a platform, you want to know how many real users you actually have access to, because that could affect the value of the deal. And obviously, Elon Musk essentially offered almost $54 per share for the price of the deal as it stands. But if they're essentially relying about the details of their actual users, then that could severely overinflate the deal that was in place. And Musk felt like that it wasn't worthy for him, given what they found out. The notice here says that Twitter board is committed to closing the transaction on the price and the terms agreed upon Elon Musk, and plans to proceed legal action to enforce the merger and the agreement. Now, Twitter is in a bind right now because obviously their shareholders have been looking forward to them to Elon Musk buying the company at a value that was much higher than the original stock price shows right now. And like I said, this is a guy who was going to buy it for $54 per share. As of right now, with the news that came out, the current value of Twitter share is $35 per share. So you're talking about a guy who's willing to buy it over $20 was his current value at the moment. And now that deal's going up. So Twitter knows that if this deal falls apart, they're going to get hit severely. A lot of heads are going to roll, and their shareholders are going to be opening to them to multiple lawsuits as well. Because let's be honest, it's not like the people behind Twitter have really wanted this deal to go through since the very beginning. A lot of the activists behind the scenes have fought against this deal because they don't want Elon Musk to buy it. So this could all be used against them in court, in a trial, to where they could say, well, you guys sabotaged this deal from the beginning. So what's to say that you guys pretty much sabotaged the company by and large? Now, there's a lot of legal actions that can be taken by both sides right now. But a lot of people are pointing out that Twitter could be liable to pay Elon Musk $1 billion for failure to complete this deal, and some of the lies that happened behind the scenes around this deal as well. But obviously, Twitter is going to try to countersue Elon Musk, saying that he offered an amount of money that he agreed to pay, and now he's trying to back out of that agreement. So both sides are pretty much pointing fingers at each other, saying that, no, this was Elon's fault, and then Elon saying, no, that this is Twitter's fault. They misled us. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Twitter is pretty much a political dumpster fire. We've known that for years, but now it's going to be a legal dumpster fire over the course of the next few weeks, few months as this whole thing plays out. So what do you guys feel about the whole thing with Elon Musk and Twitter? What do you think about the deal as a whole and where Twitter stands as a whole? And I'll kind of start with Cage, and we'll go around.
Well, with Elon Musk, essentially, like, either way he wins, it's like if he about the whole at least fair speech or free speech, whatever you want to call it, he basically fucked Twitter up. It's like they're gonna be battling and trying to, in terms of legalities. So either way he wins. It's not like, I mean, I don't think that he really wanted Twitter to begin with. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember who. Oh wait, it was. Damn, I can't remember who it was who broke that shit down. I'm like, when you break it down like that, kind of do make sense why he didn't really want it to begin with. And it has something to do with like Tesla and how Tesla was losing money and shit like that. And the move, like, I wish I fucking knew more about it. But
essentially, it was like a hostile takeover bid. So what you did is that you offer an amount of money that is probably way more than the company's actually worth. Because Twitter is a publicly traded company, they would have to essentially look at the deal in order to take it. Because if the shareholders are like, okay, well, the share price right now is like $35, and here's the guy's offering to buy the company at $45 or whatever the case may be, overvalue. If you don't accept that deal, then you violate your shareholders agreement. And now there's like I said, a big legal battle is going to happen behind the scenes because people are going to be looking at Twitter, people who own shares in Twitter right now, saying that, hey, we could have made good money off this deal, and you let internal politics get in the way of it. So, and then not only that, but so you're looking at the possibility of Twitter's stock price crashing because now that they're not going to get this Elon Musk deal, I mean, who's going to pay that much money for Twitter, especially now knowing that a lot of their accounts are fake to begin with? And then Elon Musk is probably going to end up getting $1 billion just for an offer that he probably didn't want to take in the first place. So
exactly, either way he wins.
Yeah, not a very good spot for Twitter. Rob, what do you think as someone who is freshly suspended off of Twitter? How do you feel about the whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, I was excited when I, the whole Elon Musk thing and him kind of getting Twitter back to a free speech platform and that being something at the forefront. That you could come onto that platform and express yourself and not be afraid to get suspended. And I mean, I still treat it basically like it's 2012 and people, it's used for jokes and dark humor and all that because that's fun. And it's like, right now with like a recession looming, gas prices up, it's fun to have like little things to laugh about throughout your day, that lighten the load. So I was excited. So I'm kind of disappointed by the news. I was sort of hoping to get my original account back, which had close to like 2,000 followers. And, I had grown for 8 years when it got permanently suspended. So I don't really know where Twitter goes from here, because their company's not doing very well in the stock market. And I don't know. I mean, I maybe they find another buyer, but I don't think it's a good investment, honestly. I don't think, and I think that, considering what's happened, I think that probably Elon Musk did this as some kind of a power play. I don't know really how or what, but I find like the process of it very strange. But I believe that he has good reason to question the legitimacy of the numbers of users because there are a lot of bots.
I mean, if you're putting up $45 billion to buy this company, then yeah, you should have some answers to your questions. You're putting up that kind of money in the first place, right? TW, I know you don't typically use Twitter too much, but what are kind of your thoughts on the whole deal of Elon Musk at least attempting to buy Twitter and essentially right now failing to do so?
Yeah, I think it's something that possibly a lot of people on Twitter, like they probably wanted something like this to happen. This might have been all planned. I think Elon Musk was definitely set to buy it, but then, that bullshit happened where he was like questioning the numbers, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, we don't like you questioning us, so we're just gonna so we're just like not gonna let you buy it.
They was gonna get exposed. They thought
exactly,
obviously, man, with how they get people like tossed off Twitter, like no doubt they're inflating numbers because of how many people they get rid of just because, oh man, we can't have these certain people on here. They don't agree with the narrative. Like
that's what it all comes down to.
It has gotten to the point with Twitter where they're pretty much regulating like what you can and can't say, what you can and can't share with other people. I mean, obviously the big thing with the election a couple of years ago is that there was a story about Hunter Biden and Ukraine and a lot of other things that went down that the New York Post wrote about. And Twitter took it upon themselves to not only just ban the New York Post from posting that article, ban a news outlet from posting it, but then proceeded to ban anyone else who dared share the article on their platform. Like that's how bad it was for a while on there. So it's pretty clear that Twitter has become a weapon in the world of politics where it comes to now it's about controlling the narrative, controlling information, controlling what can be talked about, what can't be talked about. And then you had a guy like Elon Musk who you saw it because, I mean, let's be remind ourselves, this whole thing started when the Babylon Bee, a satire website, posted an article about one of Biden's representatives being a trans woman or something like that, and they had called her like a man. So they suspended the Babylon Bee for writing a satire article, and that's kind of what started this whole thing. That's when Elon Musk started looking at the whole situation with Twitter. It's like, okay, if you guys are just going to run your company that way, then I'll just put a team together of people just to buy your company outright. And like I said, internally, they tried to fight it as much as they could. Then it got to a point where it's like, well, yeah, if we don't accept his offer now because of the money that's being put up, we're going to get punched down pretty hard here. And like I said, now we're at this point where, as far as, I guess from Elon's perspective, there isn't really much too bad on his end. I mean, Twitter can try to sue him and try to say that, no, you have to go through with the deal because this is what you agreed to. But if he can prove that, that Twitter outright lied, and he already has SEC filings that back up that claim, I mean, it's not really much that they can do unless they want to renegotiate a lower price, which won't be the best look publicly, especially as your stock trader goes when you go from someone buying it from like 54 to like maybe down to like 35 or something like that. But it might be better than just having him just walk away entirely as well. So there's still a lot to this situation that can happen in the next few weeks. But right now, Twitter's just looking very, very bad at the moment.
Yeah. They could better take what they can get and run at this point because I know that they're full of shit. We all know that they're full of shit.
Of course.
Oh yeah. I mean, they've been that way for quite some time. Quick little shout out here. I wanted to get some of the people in the chat involved here. We got Hustle and Motive, who is here joining us tonight in the chat. We got Lewis the Casual, who's here. Hopefully he's on time. He's not like 15 minutes behind us like he usually is every single week. So
he'll see this in 15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Like earlier, you were talking about Christy Hemme. Just search Christy Hemme on Twitter. There was something about her and sexual favors. Then she got a match that she clearly was not qualified for at WrestleMania. So everything just starts to make as far as that goes. So any final thoughts on this one before we move on to our next story here?
Nah, I said everything I need to say.
It sucks for us, man, because it's like, bro, I just want to have. I just want to say what I have to say without being worried about being thrown off for it or just some asshole getting pissed off at me because they don't like me and getting other people to mass report me or some bullshit like that. Like why can't we just have I mean, I'm a libertarian first and foremost, so I believe in a fair and open internet, or at least, and it's like, look, when it comes to extreme shit, like whatever, I'm not going to say it obviously here, but if it comes to extreme shit, at least give us fair speech where we know the rules that are established, like set legitimate rules, not, this rule is like this today, but tomorrow it changes sort of deal. That's how Twitter is. At least set the standards of what's allowed and what is not allowed and hold to them. Don't bullshit us. And I wish that we did have like a big platform where that is established.
Yeah, like I said, when it comes to these companies and their terms of service, I mean, they always say, "Oh, you violated the terms of service." Well, we clearly proven that terms of service can just change on a whim, and it basically changed to whatever the case you want it to be. So, I mean, what the fuck does terms of service actually mean at the end of the day? So, I don't know. A lot of people are saying that this is a win for Trump's platform. I don't really see it that way. I don't think that all these people are going to go to the Truth Social now that the deal fell apart with Twitter. The same people are going to be in there the way that they've always been. So it's just the way that it is. I know someone who's fiending to get in right now. We were waiting to clue up this topic. So let's in. The condescending Josh is joining us on the program. I better be ready. What's going on, man?
Yeah, hello, mate. Hello, everyone at the panel and TW as well. That I know that he kind of like had to take that call. So right. One thing I would say though regarding this topic is that, well, according to, I can't even remember what the source was, but Truth Social, Donald Trump's social media platform, has gone up 17% in stock since the whole thing, the whole rumor about Elon Musk walking away from the Twitter deal. So I don't know. It's whatever that is. Truth Social still won't let me download the app because I don't really have a working iPhone. An iPhone 6 does not work with Truth Social, mind you. So I'm really
I haven't looked in the Truth Social. I know a lot of people were complaining because apparently you have to put certain identification on in order to log into the site, which is obviously a red flag for a lot of people. So I can't really go at bat for Truth Social at this point. I mean, Lewis seems to believe that Twitter can't be salvaged at this point. I think we're far beyond salvaging Twitter. So it is what it is.
Yes.
But no, what was it?
Oh no, I said sorry about that, guys. People love calling me when I'm busy.
Exactly. I had people talking in the background for a second. I was like, all right, someone out there talking louder than me. What's going on over there? But no big deal. Let's go on to our next story here. We talked about Chris Pratt a little bit last week. And so if you joined us last week, it's still on the YouTube channel right now. Me, Cassie, Rob, and TW all watched the UFC pay-per-view. last weekend. And the main event, we could say, was not exactly too great. I know Cassie isn't exactly a very big fan of Israel Adesanya. Called him a clown on multiple occasions during our drinking stream last night. Pearl-wearing bastard was another one as well. Well, apparently he also got into it with Chris Pratt on the at the event. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what this. Wow.
So Chris Pratt apologized to UFC champion Israel Adesanya after comments that he made on an ESPN show following the event. So quick little update on here. Chris Pratt attended UFC 276 last weekend in Las Vegas. The show that went head-to-head with WWE, by the way. Like I said, just I don't know why they thought that was a good idea.
He's my second choice to maybe play Johnny Cage in a potential Mortal Kombat 2, but it might not happen.
The first one being The Miz, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't watch the movie, but The Miz was bored to play that role.
Yeah, exactly. So Chris Pratt was at the event. They were promoting his movie. He was having a good time. And he was there watching all the fights. He was actually there for like the very first fight of the night. Like I'm not talking about like the main card, like all you filthy casuals who show up like 2 hours before the show ends. I'm talking about he was there from the very first fight of the night all the way to the main event. So he was a big fan. He was there for the whole thing. But Israel Adesanya, who was the UFC middleweight champion, defended his title last Saturday against Jared Cannonier by decision in a fight that a lot of people describe as lackluster. If you want to catch our reaction to it, like I said, it is on the channel right now. But so after the event, he did a post-show event with the UFC. So once everyone leaves the arena, they'll bring some of the winners of the night, talk about their performance. They'll bring in some other stars, and Chris Pratt was one of the stars that they brought in. So they talked about the main event. And apparently Chris Pratt wasn't exactly a big fan of Israel Adesanya during his performance of the night. I could go ahead and try to play this video here. I'm going to play this video here to kind of give you a gist of what he said and what kind of started this whole thing. So you have a couple of ESPN analysts. You have Anthony Smith, who's a UFC light heavyweight. And then you have Chris Pratt here on the far right. So this is the video that circled around. And this is what got Israel Adesanya's attention.
The fact that Easy came out like The Undertaker. Yeah. What was your take on what we saw in those 5 rounds?
Look, I'm going to say this as humbly as I can. As a guy who never stepped in the octagon, I don't know this game. I'm just an actor, but I'm not a fan, man. I'm not a fan of coming out like all that talk and then just kind of putting on a little bit of a pitter patter. I'm like, come on, man, get cash on that. You gotta cash that promise, of being so badass. And I don't know. If I bet with my money, I would have bet Adesanya would have done something like that. But I was hoping to see Cannonier.
The setup let you down. The setup.
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
So Chris Pratt pretty much just talks about how he was disappointed in Israel's performance during the fight. I think a lot of people felt the same way. But obviously, when guys like us say that we were disappointed, it doesn't exactly go back to the champion himself. So when Israel Adesanya found out what Chris Pratt had said the next night after the fight, he posted this on his Twitter account, which says, "Good morning, I'm the man and your son fan." And he posted this clip of Chris Pratt in the movie Wanted back in 2008.
Yeah, it was great, bro.
Ah, damn it.
Twitter video, it's always terrible.
Yep. So that's the video that he posted in response to Chris Pratt and his comments during the after show. So obviously Chris Pratt saw this, and then he apologized to Israel Adesanya in the video, saying that, "You're right, I'm sorry, brother. It bugs me when people criticize my work, having never themselves risk anything. It makes me a hypocrite to do the exact same to you. My bad. Keep on keeping, champ." And that was Chris Pratt's response during the whole spat. So Israel had actually commented immediately after the fight about people taking shots at him for his lackluster performance. And he said after the UFC event, "Just something I want to say. You guys have your job to do. I'm not criticizing you guys in particular. I kind of am. But just remember this. I can do your job. You can never do my job. Just remember that. I can do your job. Trust me." He continues by saying that, "I appreciate you guys for what you do, but not just for me, but for other fighters. Be mindful of your words. Be mindful when you the way you clickbait. That shit is weak because I know how YouTube works. I know how these interviews work. I'm glad to have my own network. Just be mindful because I can do your job. You can't do mine. So remember that." So Israel kind of had a problem with people criticizing the fact that he went out there and won the championship. I mean, retained his championship. It's his fifth title victory since he's been the champion. But people obviously weren't a big fan of the fight and wasn't a big fan of his performance. He took exception to that. So let's start off with I want to start off with Josh here. What do you think about Israel Adesanya's comments about Chris Pratt? Do you think Chris Pratt was justified by what he said in the ESPN interview to begin with, given the fact that it was a weak performance?
Right. I suppose everyone can have an opinion on anything, regardless of your experience or your level of expertise in this particular topic, right? So, because you can criticize, and he did criticize. I mean, my only problem with that is that the next day, after the guys share like a very petty and kind of like outdated, when did that Wanted movie come out, man?
2008.
That's
20 years.
2008.
Nobody cares about the movie. Nobody cares.
15 years old.
It's a good movie though. I'll give it that. But still, it's like, right. So why try to make a thing out of a comment, right? An opinion. And my problem with this is the apology. Why would he apologize to the whole thing? Oh no, I'm sorry, my brother. I didn't really mean whatever, right? So I didn't really mean to demean your job or whatever. And the other guys, the fighters' reply is actually even sadder in my opinion. So I don't know. It feels like it's an unnecessary controversy. That's all I got.
TW, obviously you were one of the people who watched that fight. You didn't think that it was a very good fight. So do you think that it's fair that Israel called out Chris Pratt for pretty much saying the same thing?
Like, honestly, I don't think it's fair at all. I think he seemed very triggered, seemed very butthurt. The people were criticizing him for having a basic pitter-patter, fight and shit like that. Like, because it's like, dude, people are gonna criticize your shit. It doesn't matter if they didn't step in the freaking octagon, bro. I'm a YouTuber. I'm not a bigger YouTuber, but guess what? We as YouTubers get people commenting and criticizing our shit. And it's like, sure, you don't have to. Sure, they might not have done YouTube, but I mean, it's just what comes with the territory, man. You put yourself out there in any form of fashion, you're gonna get criticized. Like, seriously, man, you just gotta learn to take it. Otherwise, don't fucking put yourself out there. It's that simple. And to Chris Pratt, and to Chris Pratt's apology, I'm like, honestly, it seemed pretty tame. I didn't really have a problem with it. I don't feel like he should have apologized because he was just talking as a fan. But I didn't think it was like him cucking out or anything like that. But I just don't feel like he should have had to apologize.
Rob, do you think at this point Chris Pratt should basically just star in a remake of Everyone Hates Chris? Because it kind of seems like that's the train that we're going in over the last few weeks. Don't you agree?
Well, he just keeps making the wrong decision. Like, it was fine to be on the panel and to make the comment because I actually agree with him. I agree with that there was a lot of pomp and circumstance around his entrance with the Undertaker, and then he kind of laid an egg. He won. He ultimately won and retained his title, but it wasn't an impressive or dominant performance. And that's, it is what it is. But, and then, okay, I need to preface this that I'm a huge NFL fan. I love sports. I will say this: athletes are very stupid. Okay. They have to be, because they have to be so confident in themselves, believing they're the best, that nobody can, is better, that, they're going to come out on top. So you have to be very narrowly focused to kind of like have the right mindset to be successful. So I understand, but him being like, I could do your job that's not true either. Like, stop talking. Like, it's a ridiculous thing to say.
Exactly.
It's true. Yes, it's true that Chris Pratt probably couldn't be in the octagon, and that's fine. But it's like, he's allowed to have an opinion regardless. Yeah. And he even prefaced it by saying, hey, I've never been in that position. I'm just an actor. So I thought it was perfectly fine. It was the apology that bothered me. It was like, no, don't apologize. You were right. Stand by what you said.
Well, Cassie, we all know that you were the fan, not exactly a fan of Israel Adesanya going into this. So does his spat with Chris Pratt make you less of a fan? What do you basically feel about what Chris Pratt said and what Izzy said after the fact? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, reality is Chris Pratt said essentially what people who pay to see this shit would say. Like, I paid for this. I want to see y'all throw hands and go at it. And ideally, I mean, I want to see someone get knocked the fuck out. That's just how it is. I mean, we hope it's not in a way that is seriously medically, like a serious medical situation at the end of the day. But that's what people go there to see. They go there to see people throw hands, and hopefully it's entertaining. Now, it doesn't change the fact that his performance is a snore. Like, it put people to sleep. I was trying to stay awake watching that shit. It's like, Chris Pratt, you know, he can't do what you do, but you didn't necessarily do it in a good way either. It's like, you won, okay, congratulations, but your performance isn't memorable. You talking shit is more memorable than your performance. So it's like, bro, like people that watch this shit from a fan's perspective are gonna have this opinion. And if you're not ready to deal with it, I mean, what can I say? Be a little more entertaining in the octagon instead of outside of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much exactly the way that I feel. Because I mean, like when we all sat there and said the same thing after the fight. Like, there was a lot of good fights on there, like the Max Holloway fight and Alexander Volkanovski. That was a great fight. And that was literally the title match, like leading into that. Like both of those guys were going at it. I mean, Max was getting lit up and he was getting busted up and he had a giant gash in the middle of his face. But I mean, he still stood in there and fight, and it was entertaining. We saw a lot of good, entertaining fights. But the main event is essentially the fight that everyone's paying to see. That's the one that you showcase your promotion behind. And then when they go and see that, it's like, yeah, you come out with the Undertaker's interest. You have like the urn and the hat and everything. So you're thinking that this is going to be like some big epic fight, and then you just kind of like lay an egg afterwards. I mean, like when the fight fans are booing you in the middle of a fight, it's kind of hard to sit there and pretend like, you know, he wasn't somewhat in the right. But I mean, yeah, I could see Chris not wanting to like make a bigger deal out of it than he actually is at the end of the day. He's trying to just like, you know, lay low, because look, he's already getting so much shit from everyone else outside of the fight world for the things that mean absolutely nothing at the end of the day. It's like, why is he going to start something with a UFC middleweight champion? Which, I mean, look, we can say what we want by Israel Adesanya, but I mean, Chris Pratt's not going to win in a fight against that dude, no matter which way you look at it. So. Yeah, I mean, I can see it both ways. I mean, Israel's the type of guy that, you know, he likes to talk a lot. He talks a big game. Most of the times he's backed it up, though. I mean, the guy is undefeated in his weight class for a reason. So he's a guy who talks, but he usually backs it up in the octagon. He did win, but he just didn't put on a good performance, and people kind of called him out for it. And Chris was one of those guys. So I don't really have too strong feelings towards any guys about the situation. They seem to have squashed it for the most part. But yeah, I mean, look. Yeah, when you put out a stinker performance, you can't get mad at people for pointing it out. Go ahead, Rob.
No, and I just wanted to say, I think that Twitter and social media in general is the worst thing for professional athletes.
Oh,
because it's like it's just all you're gonna hear is criticism. I mean, sure, you'll see praise too, but it's like the best thing is to just ignore it. It's just noise. It's just a distraction. And so, like, I think it's been one of the worst things for professional athletes the last, 12, 13 years that it's been available. And that's for football, NBA Twitter is, I don't like to use the word toxic, but it's just so negative and it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, as a matter of fact, we know NBA Twitter very well, because if you remember, I think about a year ago, AEW went on like after an NBA game, so people saw like Chris Jericho when he wasn't in exactly his best physical condition, and they literally roasted him on Twitter for about a good 2 or 3 days after that whole incident. It was pretty sad and hilarious at the same time. But hey, Jericho lost the weight; he looks better than
exactly.
before, so you can look at it from that perspective.
I was honestly kind of. Oh, sorry about that. This is why I was honestly kind of behind Vince, like banning people from social media to begin with, and like the Twitch stream, because like Rob said, that sort of environment is toxic for entertainers of any kind.
Yeah. And then it's like not only that, but just some people just can't handle criticism in any way, shape, or form. It's like
to be fair though, Vince didn't essentially ban them from having like social media presence. Matter of fact, WWE forces you to have a Twitter account. It's just that, Vince isn't making money off of these dudes doing Twitch or whatever the fuck, so that's why he didn't want that. So it's like you can't have your cake and eat it too, sort of deal, in my personal opinion.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I said, there's a lot of people who probably shouldn't be on Twitter at all, honestly, but it is what it is at the end of the day. I did want to just play this because I thought that it was funny. You guys remember this one if you remember the old TV show? Oh yeah, let me pull it up on here.
You gotta put Chris Pratt's face there.
Yeah. I put like a little like cry on there too, just to like really like sell it.
It was even better.
I was more of a Bernie Mac watcher.
Oh yeah, a Bernie Mac show it was legit too.
Bernie,
But
yeah,
I
Bernie Mac
wasn't into the show. I loved his stand-up though.
Yeah. If you haven't seen the old comedy special Kings of Comedy, I mean, obviously Bernie Mac is the funniest one on that whole stage.
Easily, like he was the best one out of that old group.
Yeah.
Yep. So, any other notes on this one before we move on to our next story?
Nah, not really. Said everything I need to say on that.
All right, then. Well, since we've done talking about Chris Pratt, I want to talk about this story because I covered this a little bit a few months ago when the promotional promos came out for Amazon's Lord of the Rings series. Now, if you don't know this, Amazon spent a lot of money, and I mean a lot of money, to get the rights to do a Lord of the Rings series on Prime Video. And we're talking about them possibly spending up to $1 billion for this thing. So they cut some serious change to put this thing together, but everything that we've heard going into it hasn't exactly been very good. It looks like there's going to be a lot of what we like to call diversity and inclusion in this series, which kind of goes against what Tolkien stood for and a lot of his work. And now they're trying their hardest to convince you that no, it was always like this, because every time they get out, they always have to say that. But here's a guy, Larry Henry, says that Amazon's Lord of the Rings, The Power of the Rings, which is what the series is called, sees people of color taking up space in the center of the fantasy series. So the argument that it was being made here is that, when you look at stuff that is based in fantasy elements like Middle Earth, things of that nature, that you don't really see a lot of people of color. Well, some people could say that that's kind of a geographical issue, not exactly a racism issue. But actor Larry Henry, who plays Hartfoot in the upcoming Amazon series, recently proclaimed that the series is finally going to see people of color taking up space in the center of the fantasy series. And it says, I hate when they spell it like this, because you can tell the guy who wrote this is either fucking British or fucking Canadian. When they spell center like that, it just annoys the crap out of me.
Or were there?
Oh yeah, I noticed.
The amount of disrespect in your sentence, it's just making me change colors and be the center of whatever your conversation is.
Because I said that English people butchered the English language. Was that last? I didn't say that. I didn't say it out loud. I mean,
I know this was off topic, but I was seeing John Voight calling for Joe Biden's impeachment.
Yeah.
Thank you, John Voight. You are a treasure.
Yeah, we'll be here all day to talk about the mess that is Joe Biden. So we'll stick with the topic at hand for a second here. Henry spoke with Empire Magazine to promote the series and give it some backstory. First, he detailed that the tribe that they're a part of is a nomadic tribe moving with the weather and the fertility of the crops. He says, we have a big canvas of wooden wheels. We're very good at hiding things because humans are much bigger than us and bring us trouble. So essentially, he's trying to put over his character and whatnot. It's typically what you do when you look at the promotional for these type of series. But the thing that got a lot of people eye roll raised is that Henry says, we're traditionally a Tolkien's little guy. When he says Tolkien, he's talking about the actor, not Tolkien, the black character from South Park.
Yeah.
So
Mark made a thing about this.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that real quick. Traditionally, the little people in this world provide comedy, but also get incredibly brave. You're going to see us run the full gamut of emotions and actions in this adventure. Hyping up the series. So there's a little note here about the diversity and inclusion in the latest Star Wars film. We've talked about that in the past, but I want to jump here to what he says is that it appears that Amazon is taking a page out of their book, saying by finally this show, kids are going to see people of color taking up space in the center of a fantasy series. because apparently there hasn't been people of color in fantasy series up to this point. He says that
exactly, because I guess adding people of color is going to make it less boring.
He says, we're very visible in this world, and that's very exciting. He says, if you can't see it, you can't be it, which is a direct quote.
I'm sorry, but that's such bullshit.
It's not going to make those movies any more exciting, dude.
Yeah.
You can put a Chinese person in there, I still wouldn't give a damn.
So he's speaking about the fantasy drama. Now, here's one thing I guess I'll sort of defend him, not by much, is that I think when he was trying to describe the universe that the Lord of the Rings is, he described as fantasy and adventure. But we have seen people of color in plenty of fantasy and adventure movies in the past. So that's one thing that always irks me with these diversity and inclusion initiatives with major studios, is that they always pretend like they're the first to do something as if something hasn't already existed like 30 years before they started pushing this in movies and TV shows, which is very, very irritating to me. This picture right here was the picture that went viral a few months ago. This is Sophia Numaret, who plays Princess Disha in the new series that's going to be on Amazon Plus. So I actually want to go ahead and just have a quick discussion about the comments that he says so far up to this point about adding diversity in this TV series. Then I want to get a little bit more into the numbers too, because the numbers tells a much bigger story about how big of a colossal failure this could be. So I want to go ahead and start with Rob, because I know Rob had a lot of questions about this one. So what do you think about him saying that Black people are going to be seen in the upcoming J.R. Tolkien Lord of the Rings series on Amazon?
Well, I don't have any problem with that in principle. It's the execution that is ultimately going to be questionable, because if your thing is, we just have these people visible, but you don't care about telling a good story or a compelling narrative or having any, you know what I'm saying? That's my big concern, because every time they try to do PR in this way and cover basically what I call tokenism, where it's like, hey, we have Black elves, and we have, these people that are in visible positions and in lead roles. It doesn't matter if your story is crap or you haven't developed, the characters themselves, because that's what people care about. They care about compelling characters through their actions, not because of their skin color. It has nothing to do with it. And the idea that somebody can't relate to somebody because the color of their skin is white or it's Asian or it's Hispanic or something, and that's ridiculous, because it's saying I can't identify with this person unless they have the same, physical makeup I do. And that's the most asinine thing, because people just want to be, I think, told good stories. So it concerns me they're putting so much emphasis on race instead of just, hey, we put a lot of money into developing a built world and adventures and amazing scenes, and they haven't really done that.
Yeah, and then we've talked about it before, is that, when you have the certain writers that you can't sell an idea based on the actual story, because the story itself isn't a draw to these people. It's that, am I going to see people on this show that look a lot like me? TW, what do you think of this whole thing with the diversification of the Lord of the Rings universe? But real quick, before I get to that, have any of you guys actually seen the Lord of the Rings movies? I just wanted to make sure that you guys have actually seen them before.
I only played.
I saw them in theaters.
I played one game on PS2, and I played the Shadow of Mordor recently.
Okay,
I'm it's an all right game, but it's nothing that's exciting.
Yeah, I'll say is that it's been a while since I've seen the Lord of the Rings movies. I think the last one came out 2005. It's probably been maybe 2008 since I've seen those films. I remember enough about them, but it has been a while. Josh, real quick before I go back to TW, you have seen the Lord of the Rings series, right?
Yes, and the last one, The Return of the King, actually came out in 2003, which is interesting because you said 2005. That means that you did not include, and I appreciate you for this, you did not include the Hobbit movies.
No.
You completely forgot about those.
I thought they were.
No, I mean, I knew about them. I just purposely didn't mention them because, for the obvious reasons.
Right.
So I did a pandemic rewatch of the extended editions. So the 12 hours of whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So I will say this: I think that they are probably the best franchise, big budget Hollywood movies to come out in the last 20 years. I mean, I also like the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. I mean, I'm sure that everybody has their favorite, but I think those Lord of the Ring movies, in terms of craft and how they were made, are impeccable.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I would absolutely recommend you guys watch those movies if you haven't seen them yet. But it kind of good to go back to you, TW, real quick. So, what do you feel about the whole thing and them trying to push diversity and inclusion in the Amazon series?
Like, honestly, I guess maybe it's like I don't like the thing is a lot of this. I don't really have like it. Like, is it cool to see them on there? I mean, I guess. But if you're gonna like put more black people on there or put black people on there, like, bro, make them stand out, make them interesting. Give me someone who's not normally into that shit a reason to watch. Because I don't care whether they're black, white, red, yellow. Like, if the movies don't interest me, I just don't care, despite who's in them.
Yep. Cassie, what do you think about this whole thing with representation and kids? This idea that the kids can only identify with something if they see themselves on the television screen that they keep pushing over and over again.
First, I have to think like this loser and basically act like him, because I don't normally think this way when it comes to just everyday people. But
yeah,
this is the writer, right?
No, this is one of the actors. This is one of the actors in the series.
Okay, so he's an actor. Is what's his name and what is his race? Unfortunately, I have to start thinking like him now.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to assume that he's a black dude. His name's Lenny Henry, by the way.
Because they show a picture in the article you put on the screen. I think it was the guy. He looked like a hobbit or something.
No pictures.
Oh, maybe he was an elf. He looked like a hobbit to me because he looked kind of.
Yeah, and he's British too. By the way, there's going to be a lot of black British people in this film. Thanks, Josh.
I mean, when actors or writers or any of these people behind this, like, they talk about the show, and one of the important factors is talking about, oh, we're so diverse. That just tells me that the show can't stand on its own legs.
Yeah,
it happens every time, and it's like, bro, like, I don't care about that. It's just, is the content there? Whoever's in it's in it. Are they good or are they not? That's really what it boils down to. And it's boring having to hear about, oh, diversity this, diversity that. It's like, okay, but like, people are in it for the fantasy. You're literally destroying the fucking fantasy of it, because it's like you just want to be constantly socially aware, and that's the most important thing to you. So it's like, thank you for ruining the fantasy to fans in every fucking fandom possible. It's like the most annoying thing for everyone, and I'm not into Lord of the Rings, but it's just another franchise that's being butchered by people that don't care about the franchise itself, but about basically securing themselves more work, because that's really all that matters. Like, this dude, at the end of the day, it's like, bro, I understand money. I understand how the world works. Anything for you to secure your bread, I get it, but at least be honest about it, because that's really what it's all about. Just be honest about it. You want more roles and you want bigger roles, and I get that. Just be honest. Don't say, oh, because we were socially aware. No, it's because you want more bread. That's all it is. Be cool about it. Be upfront about it. I get it, bro. To me, that's just what it is. I think people are just full of shit at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to.
All right, well, I want to go back to Josh here before we get into the numbers here, because I think a lot of you guys are going to be absolutely staggered by the numbers behind this whole series. But obviously, Josh, you're one of the guys that have actually seen like the Lord of the Rings. So I guess the question that I ask for you is that for someone who's seen the movie, who maybe a fan of the movies, do you like that how can I phrase this? Do you like the fact that this series is putting an emphasis and all of its marketing on the diversity of the series, rather than pointing out anything about starting any kind of like new adventures or how they're going to expand on the actual universe that Tolkien created like in the first place? Because like I said, they've been going on about this for about 3 or 4 months now. I still haven't really heard anything about what the actual series is going to be about, or like what's going to be essentially the draw for people to watch this, unless you're already a fan of Lord of the Rings. But you're not exactly making Lord of the Rings fans happy by putting stuff like this out here. So what are your thoughts about that?
I will preface with the fact that The Lord of the Rings is actually one of my favorite trilogies of all time, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't watch The Hobbit. I watched the first one, and I was like, no, I'm okay. I don't want to watch the other one.
Yeah.
And then, but here's the thing, though. I was actually looking up this Lenny Henry person, right? And he's playing a character called Sadok Burrows, a character that was created just for this Amazon thing, right? He's not a character that Tolkien created. He's not anything. And I'm beginning to think, right? So this is a British black person. Why did they not cast an American black person? Like, let's just say Dave Chappelle, right? Just for the joke, right? So let's just have a comedian in the thing, right? So give us diversity. Where are the American accents in The Lord of the Rings, man? Come on, where's your diversity? I want to see you guys be represented in The Lord of the Rings, and I see no representation whatsoever. So where's the American actors playing? I guess Elijah Wood, whatever, right? And Sam Gamgee, I forget the name of the actor. I like him more than Elijah Wood, actually. But that's the thing, right? So if you're talking about diversity, they just thinking skin colors. That is all it is.
Yeah.
Right. And that's my problem with the whole thing, because growing up, I was actually way over 20 when I saw the first movie. Or like, maybe, I don't know. I can't even remember how old I was. But yeah, I wasn't like a kid. And I was like watching a movie, and I was being entertained by the movie, because the movie, the content of the movie, the writing of the movie, the source material is entertaining to me. And I was watching the movie, and at one point, I never actually went like, well, where's the people like me? Where's black people? Where's brown people? Where's like anything? I just didn't care, because the movies are so great and timeless and everything. And this whole thing is going to make it, I think, with the whole thing, with the diversity and everything, they're going to make this movie not timeless. I suppose it's not a movie, it's a series, but whatever. You got the point. I don't know. I feel like, I don't really care about this show. I'm not going to watch it. So it's, interestingly enough, as diverse as it is, it's not really pandering to me. I'm not white, and it's not even pandering to me. It's like, but
but in the same time, you're actually a fan of the movie, so they should be pandering to you as someone who's more likely to actually watch a series and give it a shot in the first place, right? Like, that's what you think.
That is your problem, because you're a fan. This show is not.
Not for fans.
That is your problem, because you're a fan. This is not for you.
But Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is really, when you break it down, Lord of the Rings is a Christian allegory about good and evil, and overcoming the dark aspect of humanity, and defeating evil, and the idea that it's this, you're focused on racial representation more than just these elemental, symbolic, ancient good versus evil kind of storytelling is really bizarre. It's like the hard work has been done for you. There's this great world you could explore with the different different races or different characters or different whatever, but it's like it has nothing to do with the racial makeup of the character themselves. It's like elves and orcs and dwarves, and it's just whatever. It's just storytelling in a fantasy realm. But these people are obsessed with lecturing the public on being good citizens.
So I made this point. You got a point, Josh? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's the one thing. You actually brought up the orcs. Well, there's female orcs now as well, so they get representation as well. Even though just go to any, pro-abortion, whatever thing, right? And you're going to see a lot of orcs from the Lord of the Rings, not created by Tolkien, though.
I almost guarantee they're going to change the origin story of the orcs to something else, because in the movie, the origin of orcs is that they were like kidnapped elves or something, and like morphed into like something terrible that basically came out to be orcs. When what is it, Sauron is explaining that in the first movie. Anyway, I've seen it recently, so that's probably why it's fresh in my memory. But he explains it in that movie, where I think they're going to veer off and have some kind of bullshit.
Well, actually, let's talk about that real quick while we're on the topic here, because this is another story that came out earlier this week saying that Lord of the Rings Power Orcs will have their own culture and will feature female orcs. So
that's their problem in there as well, because they're not being inclusive. You're supposed to call them birthing orcs. You can't really call them orcs with a vagina. You can't say female orcs. It's offensive. Get with the times, man.
Oh man, you already giving me like PTSD for that Thor movie that I just saw, but we'll get to that one on another day. So executive producer Lizzie Weber of the series made it clear that these orcs will be different from the orcs seen in the Third Age and brought to life in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy. She says, "While I love orcs, I love the creature's design. I'm very happy to talk about this stuff." JD and Patrick, the showrunners, the very first page of their Bible was about orcs. He said they have a real passion for them. They love the prosthetics. They love the design, and they felt like they needed the exploration, given that this is a second age, thousands of years before the events of the Third Age. He said it was really important to them to treat them as their own culture, explore their world on its own two legs in their own right. This is what she said. Let me go ahead and find the quote on here. Sorry, I can jump out there. It says they're not based on the direct experience of mine, I suppose. A good deal of Goblin tradition. Goblin is used as a translation in The Hobbit, where orcs only occurs once, I believe. Especially it appears in George McMichael, except for the soft feet, which I never believed in. The name was from orc, which is in Sardarin, and Uric is the black speech. Try to make sure I'm reading the right part here. Sorry, 1 second. I know I did here, but there's a lot to this one.
You know what would be even worse though? While you still look for the thing.
Yeah.
Just imagine if the show is actually good. And nobody watches it because of the whole pandering to whatever demographic, to diversity or whatever, right? So, and the show is actually good, but nobody watches it.
Yeah, so I had to jump down to see where the actual part was. She says, Weber right here says, go on to reveal that the show will feature female orcs. She said that there are some female orcs that I truly love. One in particular who's very, very tall and strong, who particularly enjoyable fight with one of the one of our elven characters that I suspect will be, and I hope will be among the fans' favorites. So they already have a character on here that they're going to try to push in the series. Says Tolkien did confirm that female orcs existed in a letter by Mrs. Numby. He said he wrote, there have been orc women, but the stories that suddenly, if ever, see the orcs except as soldiers of the armies and in the service of the evil lords, we naturally would not learn much about their lives. Not much was known. So Tolkien kind of left that portion of the series up to interpretation, because let's be honest, he probably didn't think it was very important to explore that in the first place. But now that Amazon is doing it, there are going to be a lot of exploitations about female orcs and things of that nature. Now,
I wanted to humanize like the villain of his novel. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you think that, hey, these are the bad guys. We don't exactly need to humanize them and learn things about it. But obviously, our morality is completely flipped in our society. So that probably has a lot to do with it. So I want to talk about the financials of this whole thing before we discuss this portion. That, like I said, this is a series that Amazon spent a lot of money behind, and they spent so much money behind it. They already have essentially $1 billion invested in this for the next few years. So this is not going to be a one and done like Amazon series. This is something that they're hoping to do for at least 5 seasons, and they already have a budget of $250 million production wise alone just to produce this one. So this is going to be the most expensive television series in history with $1 billion produced. That's all Jeff Bezos' money right there, just so in case you didn't know. But not only are they going to be putting up that kind of money just for the first series and the series after that, but this series alone is going to cost them upwards of $500 million just for the very first season of setting all this up. So this is from The Verge. It says that the first season of the Lord of the Rings TV show is reported to cost a retail giant, imagine to produce $465 million just for the very first season of this show. So this is going to be the largest television series ever made, the most expensive television series ever made. Most of this is going to be shot in New Zealand because that's where scenery rise. It makes sense, but there's going to be a lot of money put into this. To put this into perspective, when they did the Lord of the Rings trilogy in the early 2000s, combined for all three movies, it cost them about $623 million for all three. And this one's already going to rival that with Amazon TV series. So this is something that they're going to be putting a lot of money into. But like I said, they're not exactly hitting the right points of getting people interested in this. So do you think that this is dead on arrival? Do you think that Jeff Bezos is better off just watching his money burn? I'm going to ask Cassie and go around here.
I don't think it's necessarily DOA because, I mean, when it comes to these streaming services, it's kind of like, it's like the content doesn't need to necessarily be great to be viewed, sort of deal. Yeah. It's kind of like it's like anti-capitalism, I want to say, in some ways, when it comes to how these streaming services are, and that's why a lot of them are able to get away with a lot of bullshit that they get away with. But this don't. When you're spending this kind of money to appeal to the small group of people that are super concerned about diversity and inclusion, and for that, bruh, you need to be going after your fans, the people that really, really are diehards for this, the ones that are gonna go out of their way and buy your merchandise, buy the shit on Blu-ray or whatever the fuck, want to collect for this franchise, want to be interested in future projects or future anything regarding this stuff. If you're just going for those people that, they'll just get behind you because, well, you're just talking their social political ideology, but they ain't gonna be there for you. They don't. These people don't have money. They're always broke losers that like talk shit and spout nonsense on Twitter anyway.
Rob, I want to ask you this question because it's something that I was going to bring up when Josh was speaking. Is that obviously we all saw the Lord of the Rings. It's very beloved by a lot of people. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, when this series came out back in the early 2000s, like obviously the cast was very, very white. I think we can all admit that. But no one ever said that the reason that they can't, get into the Lord of the Rings is because, well, there's just not enough people of color in there. Like that argument was never made. Like this whole argument that the progressives keep making that, well, now that people, like now these little kids can see themselves in television shows and movies, now they can really like get into it. And I brought this up on the Black Pill stream earlier this week. My favorite Marvel character is the Punisher, right? Yeah. Now, I said this on the stream that the Punisher is middle-aged. He's white. He had his wife and kids murdered in front of him. He's from the military. He fought in Vietnam. So it's like he's the complete opposite of what a 10-year-old me would have identified with back in those days as far as a comic book character goes. So why is he my favorite character of all time? Because he kills bad guys. And that's why I love him as a character. I like street level heroes. He's a guy who goes and blows up the Italian mob and kills random street thugs. That's the type of shit that I actually like. I didn't care about his skin color or, well, he's not black, so I can't identify with Frank Castle because he's not like that. That mentality never existed until the current modern social justice age. Do you agree with that, or am I just going off on a tangent here?
Well, yeah, I mean, and the great thing about, whatever you want to call it, art or entertainment or the movies, is that it's not real. It's not real. It doesn't mean anything. It's just whatever you enjoy. If you like, 60s art house movies, that's great. But like, and just because there might be a violent scene here or a vicious sexual assault or something terrible happens to the main character, doesn't make you a bad person or immoral for being interested in it or wanting to like explore like a complicated series of feelings. Like that's what art is for. Entertainment. It's like it's an escape. It's supposed to be, and it's supposed to be that. If you're constantly lecturing people with your message and you're beating them over the head with it, they're not going to come back and they're not going to return. I personally hope this is a good series just because here's the thing. Amazon did not own this outright. This was owned by New Line Cinema, which is a subsidiary of Warner Brothers. Mm-hmm. So if anybody was going to make a big show, it would have been HBO Max or something like that. But Amazon didn't even own it, meaning they had to purchase it and then they had to produce it themselves. And what I will say about the original movies is, yes, there's a lot of white-skinned people in it. It's incredibly diverse in the casting. You have Ian McKellen, you have Hugo Weaving, you have Elijah Wood, you've got Viggo Mortensen and Jonathan Rhys Davies from that show Sliders, and you have this amazingly diverse cast in terms of the acting talent. And then you have Peter Jackson, who's from New Zealand or Australia. I think it's New Zealand. Yeah. So I think that to say it's not diverse is like, okay, you mean that there's not there's too many white faces, which is you're basically just being discriminatory against people of all different cultures and backgrounds because they have white skin. Good job, idiot.
Mm-hmm.
TW, are you more likely to watch this Amazon Lord of the Rings if there's going to be black people in it, or are you more likely to skip it? What is your thoughts on the whole?
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna skip it. I mean, I didn't like the original. I didn't watch the original ones. This isn't gonna make me want to watch it anymore, because it just doesn't seem interesting to me in the slightest.
Oh, come on! Isn't it better now? Isn't it better now?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it. I mean, there's nothing that stands out to me really, but I don't know, if they spent a lot of money on this, they better hope it does well. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, and I think it comes out next month or September. I'm not certain the exact date. I can figure it out. Josh just hopped off, so we'll go ahead and get our final thoughts. Any other final thoughts on this topic before we move on to our last topic of the night before we start off on our review?
Okay, so I have a question. If I want to watch The Lord of the Rings, is it better to watch the movies are already like 1 billion hours long as it is? Is it worth it to watch the extended cut or just the theatrical cut?
Just watch the theatrical cut. You don't need the extended cut. I will say this too. Most movies' director's cuts are unnecessary. There are exceptions.
That's why they're director's cuts.
But right, exactly.
Yeah.
No, there's so many that I think are
not everything is the Snyder cut. Trust me.
Gotcha.
All right. So yeah, like I said, they're putting a lot of money into this, and I think they're just burning money at this point. That's just me personally. So let's go ahead and go on to our final topic of the night, which is the Thor movie. Now, me and Rob and Rick and hopefully Sarah will be reviewing this movie on Monday night. So we're not going to get too much into spoilers because we can really get in depth into it on Monday. But there's a couple of things about the film as someone who's already seen it and without spoiling anything. Natalie Portman made a very interesting statement earlier this week by saying that this is the gayest MCU film or the gayest Thor film ever. After watching the movie, there's an argument to be made about that. I won't get into specifics outside of this one character. Now, this has actually caused a pretty heated debate behind the scenes at Bounding in the Comics here because there's two ways to look at this story. So David Cohen, or as some of you guys know him as Wataki is, I just laugh every time I say that now. I'm sorry. But the director and writer of this film, he plays a character in the film called Korg, right? And Korg are essentially a bunch of rock creatures from a different galaxy and whatnot. His character is essentially comic relief, even though at this point he really doesn't need to be in the film at all. But it is what it is. There's a revelation made towards the end, so this is a very, very slight spoiler, that all of his race, quote unquote, are men, which means that they reproduce by having two men in a relationship, which was their way of showing in LGBTQ representation in the film, right? So this happened towards the very end of the movie. Like I said, it's like the last 5 minutes. It's basically like an eye roll scene right before you head out of the theaters. No big deal. But apparently, David Cohen doesn't know the continuity of his own film because dialogue in the movie Thor Ragnarok, which was done just before this, only 5 years ago, states the complete opposite of what was stated in this movie. So here on Thor Love and Thunder, you see the poster right there. It says that the Koranians, or the Koranians, like I said, these are mythical names, so forgive me if I don't spell it correctly, but his name is Korg. I'll just put it that way. Yeah. He says in the film that all Koranians are males, and he confirms this. However, this is in direct contradiction to a line that he said in the previous film, which was Thor Ragnarok, which when Thor and Thor were heading down a hallway, he was talking about his family. In the line, he says that, "Oh well, I tried to start a revolution. That didn't, but we didn't print enough pamphlets." I mean, this is his comedy, by the way, so I'm just throwing that out there. So hardly anyone showed up except for my mom and her boyfriend, who I hate. So that was like a throwaway line that he did in his last movie, but that line kind of contradicts directly the line that they're trying to prevent in this movie by saying that everyone in his race are male, and then they reproduce by male on male contact, I guess you can say. Now, the reason why there was an argument about this was because in the comics, in a fairly recent edition of the comic books, which came out in 2008, I guess they sort of retconned that to make it to where, yes, both guys, I guess, like both of these creatures are all males, and like that's the whole note of their race. So they did up that in the 2008 version of the comics, which means two things. One, that Taka didn't exactly know the origin of the character that he was using in the first place, because if that was the case, he should have made that point in the previous film and not this film that came out 5 years later. And two, it also proves that apparently he doesn't pay too much attention to his own lines in his own movie. Because if he would have known that he had looked that line in the film, he at least could have presented whatever he was trying to present for his representation in this film in a much different way. But we're talking about a guy who completely forgot that Natalie Portman was in the Star Wars films when he did an interview with her earlier this week. So, and then not exactly a very good week for Mr. David Cohen in this movie. There's a scene here. I'm not going to play it. It's basically just like a throwaway comedy scene. You can say that about a lot of things in this movie, just being a throwaway comedy scene. But so I guess there's two questions here, and I want to start off with Rob with this one. Is one, what do you think about the whole angle of LGBTQ representation, like Natalie Portman stated? And then what do you think about Taika Waititi not knowing the own origin of the movie that, keep in mind, he wrote and directed this movie 5 years ago, and apparently he didn't go back to do enough research to at least make things consistent for the very next film. Maybe he was too busy on that boat with Tessa Thompson to realize that. So what do you think about this story?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say when it comes to, the LGBTQI whatever alphabet in in the Marvel universe, because it's just like the representation is so shallow and it's so tokenist, and it's just like it's like waving a rainbow flag. It's like, it's that kind of support where it's so minimal and so superficial. It doesn't mean much to me. I mean, you notice it because you're a living, breathing, thinking human being, and it's like, well, there's that. But it's just a dumb sort of detail, I think. And then Natalie Portman sort of saying it's the gayest movie. Okay, to me that doesn't mean anything. It's like, that doesn't make me want to go. That doesn't make me want to see it anymore. It's like, is it a well-told story? Like, are fans gonna be engaged with it? Like, those kinds of things. And I don't know. And it seems like such a frivolous movie. And just, I hope I'm not angry for 2 hours tomorrow, just sitting there. So,
yeah. And like I said, I'm trying my best not to spoil anything. I'll let you watch it going into it. But I want to ask Cassie this, because we notice this a lot with these people in Hollywood. Clearly, Natalie Portman is in a very progressive bubble. That's the type of people she surrounds herself with by choice, by the way. So in her mind, she thinks by saying that, this is the gayest movie in the MCU or whatever the case may be, that she thinks that people are actually going to want to see that because of that. When in reality, you're probably driving more people away from the film that are actually going to go see it by emphasizing dumb stuff like that. Real quick, there's a term that the people on the LGBT got really angry about, and it's called queer baiting. And it's essentially what movie studios have been doing now to meet diversity quotas, is that they'll imply that a character may be bisexual or may be gay, but they don't actually show any signs of affection throughout the movie. I mentioned this with a movie in Ambulance, right? And the scene in Ambulance, Michael Bay's movie that came out earlier this year, there's a scene where one of the cops is having like a therapist meeting with his husband, right? And then that's the implication, is that, this is a gay character. So they have this scene where they're fighting, and he's like, something's going on. I love you. I'll see you later. that scene was only implemented just to prove that there's a gay character in the film, just so they can get the film, their quote unquote diversity quota out there. Because, like I said, a lot of these studios now, like Universal, Disney, other studios, they will not greenlight projects unless you have a certain diversity quota in the film. So this is like a lot of creators. What they do is like, okay, we have to have at least one of them in there, so let's put in this little throwaway line or have this throwaway scene. That way we can just move on with the rest of the film like we want to do. So, what do you think about this whole situation, Cassie, with Marvel? And it's a mess.
Well, with what Natalie Portman said, I mean, calling it the gayest Marvel movie ever is a worthless statement. Let's just be honest. It's absolutely worthless. It gives nothing to the film itself in terms of what it achieves. It doesn't achieve anything in the grand scheme of things. But what I think is of worth is what Natalie Portman isn't saying. She isn't saying things like, this is the best Thor movie ever. She isn't saying things like, I believe this is the best Marvel movie ever. Clearly, she doesn't seem to like boast the project that she's involved in, a project in which her character takes a big step up from how the character was previously portrayed. I mean, you're literally taking over a now mantle or whatever the fuck. And the fact that she's not saying these things means to me that the film itself is just another nothing burger. That's pretty much what Marvel is in the money to do now. Just put out nothing burgers and advertise the shit out of them and just hope that they stick somewhere with somebody.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what it's come down to. I mean, obviously, our running joke is that it's pretty much the longest running cinematic soap opera in movies right now. That's basically what's coming down to. We have to see the next episode of the soap opera, guys. Josh, what do you think about this whole thing? Kind of interesting. Were you in any way, shape, or form interested with the Thor movies? Because let's be honest, even like looking at it objectively, all of the Thor movies have not been good. Like there hasn't really been a quote unquote good Thor movie up to this point. You can argue that Ragnarok is probably the best, but that was more of a statement by default than anything that Ragnarok was actually that good of a movie, right?
Yeah, well, I don't really know about that because I really like the first Thor movie. Like I know I'm in in the minority, so they should probably pander to me in this case. So, the second one, right? Yeah, like the second movie is obviously rubbish, and the third one is just I don't know. I had fun the first time I watched it. The second time I was like, I don't know why I like this. In this movie, I was like, I remember just at the end of the Avengers Endgame, I was like, oh right, so the Guardians of the Galaxy. I was just like, okay, so this is going to be a Guardians of the Galaxy / Thor movie, and I was somewhat excited at the time, right? But again, I was the one doing the seal clapping, in the theater. So at the time, I was like, yeah, okay, I could see another Thor movie with the Guardians of the Galaxy. And I remember, I think it was at one Comic-Con when they announced that Jane Foster, well, not Jane Foster, well, yes, Jane Foster, but that Natalie Portman was actually making a comeback and to reprise the role, and that she was going to be the mighty Thor. I was like, okay, no, I just don't care about this anymore, and I haven't cared ever since. And I'm not even going to watch the movie. Like I'm done. Like with Marvel or anything, I'm just done. Doctor Strange, I didn't watch. I'm probably never going to watch that movie.
Yeah.
Not Ragnarok. What's the name of this one?
Love and Thunder.
Love and Thunder. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm probably not going to watch this one, and I just don't care. Is it the gayest movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Yes, probably it is.
It has nothing to do with sexual orientation.
Like honestly, just bring back those 2010, 2015 insults. This movie is just gay. I'm not going to watch it, and I know it's gay.
Yeah.
Not for the same reason Natalie Portman is actually praising it. It's gay.
Yeah.
It's just gay.
So just to confirm real quick, Natalie Portman did say that this installment of Thor was the gayest Marvel movie ever made, and that she loved it.
Freaking hell, I agree. I'm pretty sure it's gay.
Yeah, very, very.
And again, I'm just throwing this as an insult. So yeah, it's just gay.
So, TW, with Thor being gay, does that make you more or less likely to want to go see Thor 4 moving forward as well?
I'm going to be honest, it makes me neither because I've never been into Thor as a character. I've never bought it to watch any of the Thor movies. This isn't going to make me any less or more likely to see it because I just don't care for Thor whatsoever. And the fact that they're adding the gay thing to it, I'm like, this is 2022. It's like I'm not surprised by it.
Literally.
So it is what it is.
Let's be real, guys. Everything is gay.
Yeah.
Everything is gay.
Yeah,
Well,
everything is gay, then nobody is gay, Cassie.
Natalie Portman, thanks for finally joining the club. You're fucking years late now. Congratulations.
Yeah. Speaking of Natalie Portman too, now I went back and I read my old review of Thor Ragnarok, which, like I said, I think I was being pretty generous for it because I wasn't as exposed to David Cohen at that time that a lot of other people were. So I would probably go back and watch it now and not give it as great of a review as I gave it. I only gave it a 2.5 out of 5, by the way. But looking back at it now, it's like Natalie Portman has been gone from this series for almost 10 years, right? And it kind of felt like she didn't even want to be a part of this. And I get the feeling like watching like this film, it's like, okay, you're only here because they paid you a lot of money to be here, which is essentially the way I felt watching the movie and kind of like watching her up to this point. It's like, well, we need to have Lady Thor in the movie because believe it or not, we'll talk about this in a second too. All of the Marvel characters that you didn't like in the comics over the last 10 years, they're all making movies about those characters now. So it's like we just had the Miss Marvel TV show on Disney Plus. We now have the Lady Thor movie. They just announced today that they're doing Captain America 4 with Falcon playing the role as Captain America. So we have Black Captain America now. And they gave the film to the director of. Did any of you guys see the Cloverfield Paradox? That one weird movie that came out like 4 years ago. It was a movie called The Cloverfield Paradox. It had absolutely nothing to do with the Cloverfield universe whatsoever.
The John Goodman and
No. That's Tim Cloverfield.
It's the one that takes place in space.
Yes, yeah.
Cloverfield Lane or some shit?
Yeah, Tim Cloverfield Lane is the one with John Goodman. No, that movie's actually good. I'm talking about the Cloverfield Paradox. It is a horrible film. What happened with that one, just real quick, I know it's a side tangent, I just got to explain it. What happened with that one is that was a film that wasn't even supposed to be a Cloverfield movie. It was like one like some studios like mid-level adventure film that nobody wanted because the film sucked. So Netflix bought the rights to it and then reshot like a third of the movie to add in Cloverfield elements to it to pretend like it was a canon Cloverfield movie. But the 80% of the movie has absolutely nothing to do with Cloverfield whatsoever. It was absolutely horrible movie. And now the director of that film is going to be directing the Black Captain America film as well. So that just goes to show you failing upwards as far as that one goes. But I guess the last question before we move on here. Does anyone care about Natalie Portman coming back to this series? Have you guys been really excited about her? Because in my last review, I said that the fact that Natalie Portman and Kat Dennings weren't in the movie was an upgrade. And then lo and behold, they're both back. So did anyone miss Portman and Kat Dennings in the MCU films?
No. I've never been excited about anything related to Natalie Portman.
Yeah. She is not a leading lady anymore, if you know what I mean.
She's not.
She's on the other side of that wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, she is a lady now. I'll just put it that way. She's not exactly. Yeah, and there's certain scenes where look, I know because the whole thing is like they have to play up the character. It's like, oh yeah, well she has cancer. It's like, well, there's still other scenes in the film where you're starting to look your age a little bit. Just throwing that out there. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole story about going into Thor 4. Which is Thor: Love and Thunder, which is now in theaters right now. If you want to torture yourself, go ahead. I won't spoil anything, but they do reveal later in the film the origin of the Love and Thunder name. And if you don't know a certain aspect about the film going into it, you may just throw up on the way out of the theater. So I'll just leave it at that. So good luck, Rob.
I haven't seen a Thor movie since Thor, the original movie. I saw it in theaters in 2011.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, this is the first Marvel movie I've seen in theaters since Age of Ultron. 7 years.
Yeah.
So here we go. Going tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Have fun.
Thank you.
All
I'm
right,
gonna get
then.
a lot of popcorn.
Yeah, you might want to get a lot of booze too while you're at it. Go to one of those sections. Just get a couple of drinks.
Oh my god.
All right, then. So we've now reached our final topic of the night, and it's not exactly a topic. It's going to be a review of a movie that we saw a trailer for weeks ago. And I looked at it, and I was like, we have to watch this movie. It looks bad. I'm hoping that it's bad, but I'm hoping that it's so bad that it's good. And all I have to say is that I'm not exactly certain if it came off that way to you guys, but I wanted to go ahead and ask everyone here who actually did watch The Princess. Hulu's The Princess.
Kind of.
So let's call it 2.5. And then Josh, you just be along for the ride. So Josh, you can ask us any questions you want about this film, but let me go ahead and play. Let me go ahead and play a little quick.
Actually, yes, that's what I was actually going to ask because I haven't seen the trailer. But yeah, I would like to see this. I've already seen. I don't really.
I will say this: they did not promote this movie well at all. Okay, because how they promoted it was not exactly what the experience was. Not that the experience was good, but they could have done a better job at promoting this. A lot better.
I think there's a reason why they didn't promote it well because there wasn't exactly anything well here to promote. But here's a quick little TV spot of the film. Apparently, we can't play these because they're only 30 seconds. So here you go, guys.
Kill the princess.
Shall we? Well, that usually works.
Look at the mess you've made.
It looks like you got me to the altar after all.
The Princess.
Oh, I needed that.
Rated R, now streaming only on Hulu.
All right.
So that is The Princess, ladies and gentlemen. So we're now on to our movie review. So let me kind of set this up. For those who don't know who that was Joey King. Now, if you don't know who Joey King was, she's an actress who you've probably seen in Netflix's The Kissing Booth. You've probably also seen her in The Kissing Booth 2, and you've probably seen her in The Kissing Booth 3 on Netflix as well. So if you haven't seen any of those movies, you may have heard of a movie that came out a few years ago called The Wish Upon. Have you guys heard of that film?
Nope.
It was a film. It was supposed to be a horror film, and I'm using that word correctly. It was supposed to be a horror film. It turned out to be a very unintentional comedy to the point where it became one of the guilty pleasures of like that year because that film is kind of the textbook definition of so bad that it's good. Like the first act, you sit there, you're kind of annoyed, but then once the film gets progressively worse, you actually start getting entertained, and by the third act, it's absolutely hilarious. So I definitely recommend that one for so good, so bad that it's a good film. So I've known about her for a little while, but this is a film that I just don't understand what into. So you have a girl here who's about 5'3", maybe she's about 110 pounds, soaking wet. And she is playing the role of a princess who is locked in a castle surrounded by guards. But what the guards don't know is that, well, this princess can kick a lot of ass because she knows kung fu and martial arts. And she intentionally goes around the entire film beating the crap out of men that are at least 4 times her size on multiple occasions. It's almost borderline like Matrix meets John Wick, except for there's no actual like guns being used here. But the kills in the movie are pretty brutal. The action in the movie is pretty brutal. I found out that this director, I don't know his name, he's Lian Van Kiet, who is a Vietnamese director. He done a few action movies like in South Korea and Vietnam and stuff like that. So he knows how to direct action. And that's probably the only positive thing that I could say about the movie is that some of the stunt choreography actually looks somewhat decent because this is talking about a guy who's at least experienced in the action genre. But everything else in this movie absolutely falls flat. You have an actress here who's completely miscast in this role. Now, maybe if this was someone like, I don't know, a Gina Carano or maybe like a Ronda Rousey, someone with actual fighting experience, you could buy into this film because at least you can buy into the fact that, okay, well, they are former fighters. I can believe that they can kick somebody's ass even if they are beating up guys a little bit too big for them. I can at least buy into the concept. But when you see Joey King, who's like, 20 years old, and you're seeing her in some of these scenes where it doesn't even look like she can physically pick up a chair and throw it halfway across the room in some of these scenes. And she's literally like beating men 4 times her size in hand-to-hand combat. But their way of trying to like mask that is by saying that, oh, well, she trained in martial arts for years with her Asian sensei in the forest, so she knows how to do, like, it gets to the point where it's like, look, and I say this all the time about movies. I say this all the time about fighters in general. In the UFC, there's a thing called weight divisions. There is a reason why we do not let the 135-pound champion fight off against Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou is 275 pounds, and he will punch your face off if he hits you. So there's no way in hell that a 145-pound male could beat Francis Ngannou in a fight. So the fact that they have a woman who's about 20 pounds lighter than that, going up against dudes who are like 6'7", 300 pounds, it's like, you're asking a lot for a movie that you're supposed to take this film seriously. Like, I was kind of looking for it being a little bit campy. Maybe not be as silly, because it is campy if it's silly.
Wait, hold on.
Take it seriously. Go ahead, Josh.
How long is this movie?
It's not that long. It's only about 90 minutes.
Over an hour.
It's about 90 minutes.
Stomach all of the nonsense in 90 minutes.
I was done with it, but with 40 minutes to go, meaning I had only gotten to the 50-minute mark. So I was just like
barely halfway through.
Right.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and let some of our guys who have watched this movie. Rob, what did you think? Let's start off with the premise and the story. What did you think about the story of this film and the setup? Did they do a good job, or did they fumble it right out the gate?
Well, first of all, the CGI is glaringly terrible. Like, it is just like bare bones, awful CGI. The actual sets themselves look like they're made out of foam. They are like the lowest quality of sets they could have used. And it seems like this was hey, let's try to make money off this bare bones production and just try to. There's no story. It's she's locked in this room. These 2 guards come in and try to rape her. She kills them, and everybody in the castle all of a sudden thinks there's a mercenary on the loose. And it's just it. And then the whole like training thing with her sensei, the whole thing strains believability and like kind of being able to suspend disbelief, because it just becomes so ridiculous. And it's this little girl who's just, she's killing everybody she's coming into contact with. And a lot of the fight, I actually thought a lot of the fight choreography, especially early on, was a lot like a wrestling match where she takes like, I forget what, it's like a pail or something, and hits the guy over the head to knock him off, to knock him out. And it almost looked like they were wrestling or something, where it's just the tip or so, hitting him. I also want to know if Joey King did the stunts herself, because I doubt it. Not that I would expect that, but.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second, because there's a couple of scenes where she just looks absolutely ridiculous in hand-to-hand combat. And I do think she was in some of the scenes, not all of them, but I do think that at least some of the fighting scenes were her in the film. The TW, what was your thoughts on just kind of the basic setup and premise of the movie? What was your issues or complaints with it?
Bro, literally, man, this is just another example of just like Hollywood putting out feminist liberal garbage. Dude, there was no story, no creativity, nothing. There was nothing, no quality in this movie whatsoever. I'm like, bro, this was over an hour of had to be like an hour and a chunk of change of just pushing out like agendas. That's all it was.
Yeah, so for those of you who haven't seen the movie, when you watch the film, it kind of just goes like straight into the movie. There's no like introduction. There's not obviously this is based on like a fairy tale, like a storytelling and things like that. So they don't even give you like an intro, like once upon a time there was a princess in a castle or anything like that. It's like the movie just starts. You enter the castle. She wakes up and she just starts killing people with no explanation whatsoever. And it gets to like the first like 10 minutes or so where I would say it's at least engaging to the point where you're trying to figure out, okay, what's exactly like going on here? Because she's just like absolutely like murdering these guys, but there's like no story introduction. You don't know anything about her character. So it's like, is there something coming here that I don't know? Is there like an origin story here? Like what exactly is going on? But as you get later into the film, you realize that, oh no, this is pretty much just what the movie is.
I'll say one thing, like, I know the whole thing of like trans people being like pushed out there and stuff like that, but this is probably the one movie where I would have accepted like a trans person actually being in the role. I would have that would have been slightly interesting. But
yeah. Rob had a point he was going to make. What are you going to say, Rob?
Oh, I mean, I don't remember specifically, but just going off of like my experience watching it earlier today, there's a silliness to some of the scenes too, despite there being like these violent moments or whatever. Then they're juxtaposed by lighthearted silliness or jokes. Like you saw the one in the trailer where she kicks the guy in the nuts. And she's, oh, that usually works. And it's just like, you want us to care about your like vigilante heroine sort of like the little girl is going to save the day. That's the sort of like tongue-in-cheek perspective of this whole movie. It's just like, hey, look at this little girl. She can kick butt, and she's not gonna deal with the patriarchy. She's gonna fight for her freedom, and it's all bullshit because it's not, there's nothing real to sort of make you care about her or like her journey or the fact that look, I know that you didn't like The Last Duel. It was one of my favorite movies of last year because it took a woman that was in a position as like property, and she told the truth in the face of a death sentence. And I thought that was like really brave or whatever as a character arc. And in this, they could have done something along those lines, but they never invest in the character. There is no character. She's just an action, like an action, initiated by action.
Cassie, from what you can recall about this film, what at what point did the film lose you? Like, at what point did you just completely give up on the movie?
When I decided to fall asleep.
Hey, at what point was that? Was that like 20 minutes in, 30 minutes?
Yeah, it was like 25 minutes in, and then the next day I put it on, and I was like, I just had it sitting here on my tablet while I was just doing a whole bunch of shit. And it's like, I just glanced at it a few different times and I'm just like, oh, okay. Yeah, I'm bored. I don't care. But like from the first 15 minutes, immediately I'm like, so some asshole that comes up with ideas in Hollywood was probably strung out on drugs in the middle of a fever dream and came up with this idea to do this movie thinking, oh my God, this has never been done before. But the fucking asshole neglects to remember that Fiona from the Shrek movies exists. So, due to being strung up on drugs and all that shit. So, it feels like it's just recycled trash to me, except it's just done in an extreme way because I've seen this character before and they were done way more interestingly than this, and there really is no story. It's just action for action's sake, and I guess that's okay in some instances. But, clearly this has a bit of a political slant to it because, well, hating men apparently is the popular go-to nowadays.
Yeah.
And, yeah, the movie has zero worth, and it feels like, other than its little statement of just wanting to shit on dudes, it knows that it has no worth.
Well, like Last Night in Soho was exactly like that. It was all the male characters are either pieces of shit who are gonna like rape or kill you, or they're harmless, they're harmless like virgins who are just like innocent angels who I'll help you out of this, and then they end up like getting killed off too. The fat like guy in his armor was just there for like comedic relief or something, and all the other men were terrible, controlling, pieces of garbage. And I'll say this: the only good acting performance in the movie is this guy named Dominic Cooper, who's like, I think he
plays the villain. He's the villain in the film.
Yeah, and he's been around for 20 plus years. He's a decent actor. He's the only thing in this movie that's okay in terms of the acting performance department.
Imagine that.
Yeah. By the way, just remind me at the end of the show when we get off air to argue about that Last Night in Soho movie, because I absolutely hated the ending to that movie to the point where I ended up hating the whole movie overall. But
what? Go on. Sorry. Right. Yeah. Right. So the one thing that I actually kind of like about this, even though I haven't seen the movie, is that it's reinforcing the idea that women, especially the tiny ones, can actually take on men, right, and win in a fight. I remember like a couple of years ago, probably like a decade ago, I can't even remember, but there was like a video of like a street fight, right? It was on YouTube when they were still not censoring this thing, and there was like a real street fight, and there was like this guy doing all of the Naruto poses and all of that in a street fight. And he got knocked the fuck out, like seriously, within 5 seconds. Yeah. And he was doing all these anime poses. And I was like, dude, it's almost the same thing, right? So you're doing this thing because you've seen it in your anime, whatever, right? So you can actually take on this guy, you can take on this person, you actually win the fight by doing all of these ridiculous anime poses. And it's the same thing. And I think it's reinforced, and I actually like that as well. It's reinforcing a non-existent stereotype, I suppose, because they're trying to make this into like a thing, right? So no, you can win this thing, you can definitely do that. And then you have transgender swimmers winning all of the competitions, male transgender swimmers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If there's any 115-pound white women watching this review right now, please do not try to fight people on the streets who are 4 times your size. It is not going to end well for you. Real life is not about like that's the thing that I think about when I see movies like this. Is like this has to inspire like some like small chick out there to actually think that it's easy just to beat up a guy like 5 times your size. And it's just please don't.
Until they actually get in that situation and it goes the opposite direction. Then they're the victim calling 911.
Carry a gun. No.
Yes. That is the only true equalizer in society. If you are a female and you have to deal with a situation where a dude just wants to either knock you the fuck out or do the R word, whatever, that is the only true equalizer. That's why I say people that are anti-gun hate women.
Yeah. Look what happened to Snooki years ago. The same thing is likely going to happen to you. Do not try to be a hero. Yeah. So watching this film, I'm thinking to myself, this is like watching like Rey Mysterio cast like a John Wick movie. And that's the whole thing I can see like in my mind, because there's scenes where she's like jumping off of like pillars and stuff and like landing on like a whole like room full of like guys. I'm just thinking to myself, it's like
parkour.
Exactly, parkour. It really is. And then there's even like parts where she's like visibly getting angry and she's doing like the and she looks absolutely like ridiculous. So let me ask you guys this question. Obviously, Joey King is not the best actress out there. If there had been another woman cast in this film in the same role and just left everything as it is, would this have improved the quality of the film? Let's say, just for the sake of argument, this was a Gina Carano movie. Would this have made it at least a better a film to watch visually, or would it just been just the same?
It would have been believable, but everything else would have been crap.
Yeah, the writing was still been non-existent. The characters would still been worthless. I mean, just bringing it into the situation, the fact that she's trained by an Asian woman, and it just feels so thrown the fuck in there. It's like, bro, could you guys be any more stereotypical? Like Hollywood likes to act like they're completely against stereotypes, but I mean, this film literally proves that you're full of shit.
Yeah, it's like you do realize that it's not just Asian people who know martial arts now. Like I think pretty much a lot of people. you can get black belts from a lot of people like these days. It doesn't have to be some Asian guy in a dojo, but that's kind of like the stereotype that goes around here. But I mean, outside of that, there's obviously like a lot of like feminist, progressive storytelling in the film. So movies like this are very easy to predict. All the men are bad in this film. There's no good guy in the film whatsoever. That was a flash of lightning, by the way. You might hear the sound in a second. Like I said, you can hear. Yeah, it's coming to you, TW. Like I said, all the men are bad. All the women are good. As a matter of fact, the only people who can give the princess any kind of battle, any kind of challenge whatsoever is other women. It's like there's 2 other women on here. You have what's her name? Olga Korylenko, who's a former Bond girl. Yeah, she plays like the main like bad female villain in this film, and she's like really the only one who really gives the princess any kind of like trouble like in the film, just because the fact that I guess they're the only two in the film with like vaginas. So she's going through all these other men like cannon fodder throughout the entire film, but it's like she comes up with another female character. It's like, oh, now these two are gonna have an epic one-on-one clash, and it's just like films like this are just so pathetically predictable, because all you have to do is just think in the mind of a progressive and be like, okay, well, this guy's mad, he's a man, so he's going to be the bad guy, and oh, that guy's a person of color, so he'll be the hero in the film, and then oh, obviously the bad guy at the end is going to be some straight white dude, because there's no other way that we would allow anyone else in a progressive movie to be the bad guy, because that would be Islamophobe of some sort. So I just absolutely despise progressive storytelling. Did you guys catch a lot of that in the course of this film as well?
That's all that was in this film.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not even lying.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't necessarily feel like there was a heavy-handedness in terms of that. I mean, other than just the sort of obvious, like, there, you know, the unequal sort of portrayal of men and women, and this sort of savior complex of I'm gonna take down patriarchy with the swing of a sword, is just, it's so desperate, and it's also so empty. There's no ideas here at all, you know, and it's a shame, because like I think of the movie Haywire with Gina Carano, the Steven Soderbergh sort of spy movie or whatever. That's a really good sort of low budget action movie with really good stunts, really good fight scenes. Like if you want to see a kind of simple setup, just done well, watch Haywire sometime. I went to the theaters to see that just because I was bored, and I was like, wow, hey, this was a nice surprise. So it just had very little there, and when you kind of push an agenda on top of it with like the ridiculous sort of storytelling, or I guess ridiculous instant in place of storytelling, it just is a frustrating experience all around.
Yeah, good. Spencer was actually challenging me on this argument. I wanted to bring this up on the argument that some girl's gonna go out and just fight like that. Look, here's what I'll say about that. We would like to assume that most people are smart and that they wouldn't go out and try to fight someone who they're clearly outmatched against with the perception that they would win the fight. We can't think like you and me would think in situations like that. We have to think of people who would only watch movies like The Princess and their warped view of reality, because I don't think they have the same logic of common sense that me and you do. So that's why I try to tell certain people, maybe not try to do this in real life. It's like one of those like WWE ads where they tell you don't try this at home. It's like, yeah, please don't try to do a 450 splash off a ladder in your own house, because you're probably going to go to the ambulance.
Yeah, they need a disclaimer. Don't try this in real life.
Yeah. I'm not saying that it's going to happen as has happened. I said that I wouldn't be surprised if it did.
And like the best version, things have happened. I mean, we got people getting killed over mayo. So, I mean, yeah, stranger things have happened.
The best version of this movie is Kill Bill. You know?
Yeah, and that's like, what I was going to bring up too.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And this doesn't even come close to scratching the surface of those movies, you know. But yeah, and it's like you can see the difference where Tarantino loves the material that he's presenting versus somebody doing The Princess being like, I hope no one notices how bad this is.
Yeah, it's pretty rotten as far as that goes. Yeah, so I mean, obviously there's a whole thing about the film where the only real storyline in this movie pretty much is the fact that she's the princess. She wants to be the heir to the throne, but because the king doesn't have a son and she's a girl, she can't be the heir. So she wants to prove to the king that, you know, she can be the ruler of whatever like kingdom they are. But he's like, you're a girl, you're my daughter, you're the princess, you can't be that person. So the other aspect of the film is like her eventually trying to prove to her dad that, hey, she kicked butt just like a guy and rule just like, you know, a guy as well. So and like I said, that's the whole third act of the film. And I kind of look at it from like the perspective of, okay, obviously, yeah, when you're talking about like, you know, if you're setting your film in the kind of that medieval like type of age, like, yeah, the king is obviously going to want his son to be like the ruler of the universe, not the universe, of the kingdom. I had Psycho Sid stuck
Marvel
in my
movie really quick.
No, I had Psycho Sid stuck in my mind for a second. Where you always thought he's the master of the ruler. So that's a throwback reference for some of you guys. But yeah, so that's like another like big thing. That's really the only like sense of a story that we have here is the fact that she wants to be the king, but she's being like held back from her gender. How do you think that they handled that aspect of the film? Do you think that that was kind of like a I mean, did you like the way that they set it up as compared to like everything else that was presented in the film?
It was bad. No. I mean, the idea here is like you're in medieval times, or even if you're not, you're in a fantasy realm that's still kind of based on medieval times. That's how it was. Like women, even as nobles, were second class citizens and by nature property. And she's saying to her dad, well, you think I'm property? And just like, bitch, you are property. Shut up. Exactly. Like, that's what you are. And it's not like, I'm not being rude because it's like, I don't agree with that. It is. I don't agree with that. But like,
I mean, this is the context of the time was,
but
these are medieval
times. Property. So understand that they could do whatever the fuck they want to you. If they want, whatever. The point is like, know your role and shut your mouth, like The Rock.
Yeah, back then, a woman was supposed to be seen and not heard.
And I'm not saying I agree with that, but for the time period that you're having a movie in, it's like it goes against like the logic of the time and the place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like, I'm not opposed to these types of like girl power movies. Rob brought up Kill Bill, and it's like Kill Bill is a girl power type of movie, but it had style. It was written pretty well. It had really good action. It had a character that I actually care about and like. It had good acting. It had, like, I could go on and on and on about how much better Kill Bill is than this movie. This movie does nothing to try and justify its own existence. Absolutely nothing. There's nothing redeemable about the film except that it's just a gore fest shit show. And I mean, that's cool in some instances, but with nothing else being able to live up to being of worth, I mean, is it really worth watching?
Yeah, my thing is, if you want to like push an agenda out there, cool, but for the love of God, make it interesting.
Yeah. I want to ask this one with Rob. Were you saying that Kill Bill was a girl power movie, or were you making the argument that
Spencer's going off for the
That was Cassie. That was Cassie, to be fair. I understand where she's coming from. She's just saying that the girl is the main character. It's not, and she's in a role where she's kicking ass and she's doing it on like she's on a mission to get revenge. What I will say is this. I know Kill Bill, the movie, it's based on Lady Snowblood, which is a very good movie from the 70s. It's an exploitation movie. It's about a revenge fantasy. Ultimately, it's about this character reclaiming her life that was taken away from her. And she obviously finds out she has a daughter. Like, there's all these stakes. It's funny. It's incredibly violent. It's compelling. It has even a Western arc to it, with like the drifting assassin and sort of like reclaiming, like I said, what she's lost. So I love it for that reason, But go ahead.
Wait, Spencer's implying that girl power movies can't be good. Like, because he's bringing up Charlie's Angels and Terminator Dark Fate, and those movies aren't good. You could have a film that gives a woman power in immense ways, and it be written in a way that I'm cool with it.
Yeah,
like,
it's not cliche or stereotypes.
Exactly. You can have a movie that's girl power in a sense that, in essence, this character is a female, she's the lead, and she kicks ass, and she's badass as fuck. Girl power doesn't necessarily imply like the political agenda behind it, is what I'm more so saying. Like, to me, Kill Bill is a girl power film. It's just not, that's not the premise, like the important part of it. It's just, it just happens to be the female protagonist is a female. She's powerful. She kicks ass. Like, that's just what I mean by that.
Well, one of my
by the way, I just want to let Spencer know I did give him the link if he wants to jump on it and argue this point. Just I feel like we're ignoring him. But yeah, go ahead, Rob.
One of my favorite scenes is in Kill Bill Volume 2, where she's not even in it, and it's just like Bud's going into his job, and he's just like saying like, there's nobody out there to bounce. Like, why do you care if I show up late? And he gets kicked out. There's these little comedy scenes throughout both of those movies that are like very funny and like, but it's still an incredibly violent movie and like dangerous world that it takes place in. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, one point that I did want to make about this film is that, and this is something that I noted in my review, is that when you look at a film like this, like the Princess, this is a film that would never be allowed in theaters, because if they tried to release this in movie theaters, this would bomb. Like, I would be shocked if it made more than $4 million before it ultimately like pulled the plug on it. Like, this is not a movie that's made for theaters. This is a movie that's made for streaming, because Disney has a plethora of streaming services out there for you to choose from. This is a film that has very low expectations. They can just dump it onto their streaming service. People probably won't even watch it, but they'll use this to front load their content of Hulu or Hulu Plus or wherever the case may be. It's like, hey, this is something that will feature only on Hulu, but it's like a 90-minute movie, but there's no replay value like with this film, and there's not even any replay value. There's not even anything about this film that makes you be like, oh yeah, I have to spend $8 a month just so I can go watch this feature film like on Hulu. Like, this is really just kind of like a nothing movie. Like, if this didn't have a streaming service attached to it, there would be no reason to make this at all. Did anyone else feel that way as far as this film goes?
Yeah.
I mean,
totally.
At this point, I've accepted the reality that streaming services are just anti-capitalist entirely. These, like, when it comes to streaming services, they don't necessarily have to make something that they think is going to make money. It's just, well, we just have to shit this content out to get to just our subscribers because we owe them for subscribing. It's not really capitalistic in any real sense.
I wouldn't quite call it anti-capitalist, but it's just a movie that doesn't really have like any stakes to it, because we talked about this last night with like Disney movies in general. Like, when it comes to these major corporations, these major, like, whether it's Universal or Disney or like Amazon and things of that nature, all of these films are just very small pieces to a much larger portfolio for these corporations. So they don't have like any stake in like any of this. I think we mentioned this with Rob yesterday when we were talking about Minions, how you really don't have true like movie studios anymore. Like, sure, there's still like a handful of them left, but they're all owned by major corporations at this point. So it's not like what used to be back in the day where a studio's only business was the movies that they actually put out. It's not the case when you look at a Universal or a Disney and things of that nature, because they're more worried about their theme parks. They're more worried about, ABC and ESPN and ESPN Plus and Monday Night Football and all this stuff. It's like, do you think that anyone in the Disney headquarters cares about the success of The Princess on Hulu? They just don't, because even if it flops, it's like, whatever, we still made $8 billion revenue on our streaming services, so who cares about this? So it's not really that it's just much anti-capitalist, it's just that these corporations are just so big that there's no incentive. Exactly, there's no incentive to succeed at this point, because you're already making so much money in spite of your success. I mean, look at WWE. They're making more money than they've ever made ever before. Their product is the most awful that it's been in like the 30 years that they've been on television. But they're making $1.1 billion a year, so there's no incentive for them to get better. If they can put out shitty TV and still make $1 billion, then what's the incentive?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, that's just the way it goes down as far as like that movie goes. I think we lost Josh there. I think maybe the audio was having issues there, but we'll go back to him later. Final thoughts about this movie. Is there anything that you guys want to bring up that may have missed? I think we pretty much covered mostly everything.
Oh yeah,
about this film.
I needed to say.
Yeah, I mean,
I will say one
piece
thing.
of shit movies.
There is a weird, and this is sort of brought up with Lord of the Rings, but I'm bringing it up with The Princess because it's a recurring thing with fantasy titles. They always hire British speaking actors, regardless of their race, to portray characters, and it's just because it's like, it just sounds good. It's that English accent, and then the words sort of roll off that Shakespearean tongue. But that's, I've noticed that in a lot of things, and that was true with The Princess. You have a lot of British or Australian or kind of similar sounding.
Yeah, it's mostly British
accents. Yeah.
So I mean, overall, I gotta go ahead and just kind of give you my review of the movie. I gave this a 0 out of 5. Look, we all saw the trailer. I didn't think we had high hopes for it. My only high hopes for this film was that maybe it's campy enough that there's some entertainment value in here. Like maybe it's not just as bad as the trailer let it out to be. Maybe this is a film that was so bad that it's actually entertaining. Maybe it was one of those films where the trailer kind of misled us. It was actually more fun than we thought, but unfortunately, it is exactly what it looks like on the trailer. So I gave this one a 0 out of 5. If you go to my rating system on Society Reviews, I just give everything I give a 0 out of 5. I just give the Stone Cold Steve Austin middle finger to. And so I think that's appropriate rating for this film.
What is 2 middle fingers?
Rob, what was your rating for the film?
I mean, I have the lowest score I can give it is a 0.5, is half a star. So that's kind of what I gave it. So yeah, there's just not much here. The CGI was terrible. The sets were awful. The acting is non-existent, and there's no plot, and so I can give a half a star for like a few spirited lines delivered by Dominic Cooper. That's about it. So half a star out of 5.
And then since you guys don't really have your own rating systems, Cassie TW, thumbs up or thumbs down, or if you really hate the movie, you can give it. Yeah, exactly. TW, do you hate the movie enough to give it the middle finger or just a thumbs down?
This movie should be nominated for all the fucking Razzies that you can possibly give it. All right. The same speech that Halle Berry gave at the Razzies, the main actress should give a similar speech such as that, as enthusiastically. She couldn't prove she could act here, but maybe going to the Razzies pretending. I mean, at least Halle Berry could pretend to act when she was accepting her Razzies. That I could appreciate. Let's see if this girl can act when she accepts her Razzie humbly.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. Like Joey King, she's only like 22 years old. I thought she was 20, but she looks like a high school sophomore in this film. And I was thinking to myself, this could have worked so many other ways. Like I say, if you just change like a thing or two in the casting of this film, this actually could have worked to have been at least a somewhat enjoyable film or a halfway decent movie. But let's just put it this way: she has less muscle definition than Natalie Portman, and that says a lot. So I think we're all collectively giving this film 0 out of 5 for the most part. So yeah, we've gone ahead and we've wrapped up here. We've talked about all of our topics tonight, so I want to go ahead and give everyone a chance to promote themselves before we talk about what we got coming up later this week and next week as well. Let's go ahead and start with TW here. I know you got some things coming up. What do you have coming on?
Honestly, I usually have some things like coming up, but I may change my mind. In the weeks coming up, I might probably maybe Sunday. I might probably do some streaming on YouTube, and I may possibly put out a artist review on Korn or a why modern video games suck rant. So it's either going to be one of those 2 videos that comes out like on Monday. Well, not Monday, but sometime next week, because Monday I also stream as well.
All right, then. Oh yeah, by the way, I wanted to put over the fact that guess what? Next Tuesday on your channel on Twitch, we're gonna be doing we did 80s night this week, so it's gonna be 70s night next week, right?
Oh shit. 70s, 70s night, man, on Twitch. Obviously we can't do that on
disco
YouTube.
Ball.
Oh yeah, nah. I would love to get a disco ball in here, but nah.
Yeah, by the way, I wanted to go ahead and call this out real quick because Cassie said that, oh, yeah, you can't have the 70s without Donna Summers or something like that because she's a Donna Summers fan. And it's like, oh, yeah, so we're just going to pretend like James Brown wasn't around during the 1970s. Like the Funky Donuts wasn't around during that time as well. No, go ahead and explain yourself. Let's go ahead and put the spotlight on you for a second.
Bro, Donna Summer is the greatest fucking artist that ever lived. She was amazing. She was badass. She fucking. I listened to her since I was 5, so obviously I'm going to sit here and defend her till death, till my death. Okay, so if you want to fight,
we're not going to talk about like Led Zeppelin or like Ike Tina Turner.
What group into it? Yeah. Okay. No, I'm playing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Joe Crocker, Aerosmith, Queen. Yeah, no, it's Donna Summer, definitely. Yeah, okay.
Yes. I still stand by it.
Yeah,
all right.
Donna Summer was breaking all the rules in the 70s, bro. That's what makes her even better. I mean, look at Love to Love You, Baby. People say, oh, Madonna was the one breaking all the rules, but she was literally moaning sexually throughout all of Love to Love You, Baby. Like, that shit wasn't really a thing until she came up on the scene, bro. Like, that's why I think that Donna Summer is the most underrated artist of all time. Fight me, bro. Okay? I'm serious.
Jackson 5, ABBA, Bee Gees.
Favorite group into this and use it against me. How you gonna fucking bring ABBA and the Bee Gees? I love the Bee Gees too. Fuck you. Okay, society.
I was saying is that it's gonna be
I'll say it on your own ballroom. Fuck you, sir.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a fun night next Tuesday for 70s night.
Oh yeah, so
it's gonna be all Donna Summers all night. I will make sure that. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna have to cap you off at one
whatever
song.
You guys want to recommend? Comment to the stream on Twitch. Recommend whatever 70s classics you want me to react to and play. We gonna do it.
All right, tell them where they can find you, Cassie.
Hey, Cult Classic Cage on YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter. On YouTube, I just uploaded a video talking about how I'm excited for a RoboCop game that actually looks fucking sick. So I'm pretty hyped about that.
I thought that was like a movie you were talking about.
It's a game, bro. It looks absolutely sick. So I'm pretty hyped about that.
I guess I'll check that out then.
Yeah, definitely. It's made by the dudes that made Terminator Resistance, which is the only good Terminator game that actually exists. So that's pretty cool. I made another video talking about how PlayStation is basically stealing the content their customers.
Oh yeah, I saw that
purchase.
one.
Oh yeah, we talked about that this week.
Like talking about digital media and how that's an issue in general, and this is the kind of shit that happens. So I mean, I talk about stuff like that, video games, movies, entertainment in general. On Twitch, I love to play video games. I love to talk to everyone. You can hit me up there if you want to talk, or Twitter if you want to discuss or yell at me about how The Princess is the greatest movie to come out this year. You know, whatever you want to do, it's all good. So yeah, that's it.
Spencer said this went from fun to awkward. I don't know about you, but I have fun trashing Cassie's poor taste in music. So I mean, I had a lot of fun. I don't know about a lot of you guys in the chat, but it was definitely a good time.
You're just uncultured swine, okay, bro?
Don't try to steal my bits. Don't try to pull a fucking Miz on me.
You want me to bring it to Miz? Miz is one of my favorite wrestlers, bro. So if you want to take it there, we can go there. But I'm gonna school you. I'm gonna have to school you on TW stream about what is real music, and that's fine. The 70s is the perfect time period to do that, and I'm very, very, very interested in that time period. So I know a lot of music.
I can't hate on the Miz too much because his hot ass wife. So I'll just throw that out there as well.
I've always thought the
Miz wins in every way, in every form or fashion.
Yeah, right.
Like how Charlie Sheen says, winning. He's the living embodiment of that. Let's be honest.
Literally.
Yeah, let's go ahead to Rob, who's with us with a brand new Twitter handle. Rob, go ahead and let people where you can find you.
Yep, follow me on Twitter, Rob Moto Movies. Pretty easy to remember. I definitely echo what Cassie said about physical media. I recommend buying your movies on disc because you don't know, when it comes to streaming, you don't know when they're going to be available. You're not going to, so. I didn't know that about PlayStation, by the way. I think that's interesting. I was going to buy the Grand Theft Auto trilogy and stuff, and, just to have whenever, but maybe I should just buy a physical copy. But yeah, me and Jacob are going to be reviewing the new Thor movie on Monday. We've got a couple streams coming up, so I'm looking forward to that. And you know what? It's not awkward if you don't make it awkward. So yep, had a good time.
Yeah, that'll be really awkward right now if we just kept this on Rob as I explain to you guys what else we have going on the podcast this week.
I will say the 70s is my favorite decade for music and movies. So there you go.
Hey!
Well, join us on Twitch on Saturday night. Come on, man. We'll be playing a lot of 70s hits, and when it comes to TW, I don't know exactly how much 70s music he knows, so we'll be throwing a whole bunch of hits.
Probably not a lot. So you guys want to come on to the Twitch stream, recommend me some stuff? Bam, I'll play it.
Wait, this is after movie night or before movie night? I'm confused.
No, this will be on Tuesday night. So this is on Tuesday on
Tuesday
TW.
night.
Yeah. On TW's channel. So.
Right.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and let you guys know what we're going to be up to tomorrow night on Twitch. It's Twitch exclusive. This won't be on YouTube. It'll be only on Twitch. We'll be watching the 1989 film "I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker," starring Keanu Wayans. A bunch of other great funny comedians are in that movie. Damon Wayans is in the film. I think James Brown. Joe Brown is in the film. Isaac Hayes. A lot of very funny
James
people.
Brown.
Yeah, exactly right. Chris Rock has a hilarious cameo in that film, so that's going to be a very funny movie for us to watch tomorrow night on Twitch exclusively. Monday night, myself, Rob, Rick, I don't know about Sarah yet, still trying to get her confirmed, but we're all going to be reviewing Thor: Love and Thunder in detail. There'll be a lot of things that we discussed. I'm pretty sure we're going to have a very interesting discussion as we've talked about the Marvel Cinematic Universe in detail on Twitter over the last couple of days. So this should go to confirm a lot of people's concerns about that whole franchise. Wednesday night, I'll be back on the Black Pill stream with John Spencer. If he's feeling better, he'll be on there. A couple other people as well. And then next Friday night, we'll be back here on the Bar Room once again. And yeah, we'll be back here in the bar room as well. Josh was having a couple of issues with his stream, but definitely follow him on Condescending Josh on YouTube and find him on Twitter as well. If you follow us on Twitter, me at Society Movies, we'll have the links. Everyone's Twitter handle is on there as well. So you want to follow these guys on social media, on their YouTube, so you know where to find them. Pretty easy to do. So that's episode 6 of the Barroom Podcast, where we're still doing this thing. So Lewis, and you can always count on Lewis just be like 30 minutes behind everybody else. He can't. Hey, 0.1 rate. Oh man, and never change, Lewis. Never change. Until then, like I said, we'll see you tomorrow night, and for the Barroom Podcast, we'll see you next Friday night. Once again, so for all my guests here, thanks for joining me for another week. We're going to go ahead and hit the outro. We'll see you hopefully tomorrow night for I'm Gonna Get You Sucker. Later, guys.
Bye.